What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Gary Kester, with you as always. Guys, we made it. Lakers training camp is finally here. The season is right around the corner. It's almost October, which is when the season officially starts. We're going to get some preseason games here soon. Man, that was the longest. This has been the longest offseason in the history of basketball. It feels like the longest offseason in the history of sports. But we're finally getting there. We're finally into training camp, and this team is assembled, and we're starting the year off, and we're getting going. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Ready for some Lakers basketball to come back, and hopefully we can end this little dry spell of not making the playoffs, and we can get in the playoffs and hopefully stay healthy for once. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Stay healthy and make a run at this thing. Make a deep run in the playoffs. It'd be awesome. All right. So for today's episode, I am going to do another mailbag. Got a handful of questions and topics I want to talk about before we really start to, in future episodes, start to talk about quotes players are saying, reports from practices, preseason games, things we're seeing, and stuff like that. We're actually going to be able to talk about on-court stuff, and I'm really, really excited about that moving forward. I'll still be doing these mailbag podcasts probably once a month. I wanted to do this since it's the last one before we get training camp, which is going to have player interviews. We're going to get reports from practices, beat reporters, all that stuff. So that'll be really fun to talk about. But before I get started, as always, be sure to like this video and subscribe to UCAS Studios on YouTube and on all those major podcast platforms, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, all that stuff. And make sure you do the same for Lakers Outsiders as well. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean. You can get all of our content on LakersOutsiders.com. Follow us on Twitter at LakersOutsiders and like us on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter at Gary Kester. That's GaryKester. If you ever want your questions to be answered on these mailbag podcasts, you can always leave them in a YouTube comment, and I will definitely bookmark those and get back to them on the very next mailbag podcast. You can tweet them at me. You can tweet them at Lakers Outsiders, and we will get them in there. All right. So for today, like I said, it's going to be another mailbag podcast. I've done one of these so far, and yeah, we're going to just go ahead and jump on in. The first question was actually one that was left on YouTube, which is really, really nice to see. And I thought it was a very interesting question. It doesn't necessarily have to do with this year, but it's possible. So we had somebody ask, how likely are the Lakers to get a third star somehow, maybe as a trade or in the next free agency class, or will Kuzma step up to this role? Would be nice to know your take on this. So I think Kyle Kuzma definitely has the potential to step up as like that third guy, that legitimate third option. I don't like to throw around the term star too much. Kuzma could be a star. He's got, to me, for him to be a star, he's got to make pretty significant improvements defensively and as a playmaker. You can't just be a one-trick pony to me and be a star. But I probably have a different standard, I guess, for that term than some people do. Some people might consider Donovan Mitchell a star. And that's just an example, but I don't know if I would say star. He's a very good player. Star, I don't know. To me, people like throw around superstar too much. And to me, there's only a handful of those in the league. So it's going to be tough, I think, for the Lakers to get a third star. Most of the contracts that they signed, so they've signed a bunch of new contracts, even though some of the guys that are on the team from last year signed new deals. So those can't be traded until December 15th. So, I mean, this is going to be the Lakers roster, at least until that point. And it's just tricky to trade some of those deals because they have player options. And, teams typically want expiring deals and with player options, I mean, the team wouldn't have control. So you'd be trading a contract basically that the players have full control, and teams typically aren't a huge fan of that. Just kind of looking at it. So player options for next year: Contavious Caldwell Pope has one around $8.5 million. Avery Bradley has one for $5 million. JaVale McGee has one for $4.2 million. Rondo has one for $2.6 million. So it's tough to move a lot of these deals, and the Lakers their books are so top heavy. You have LeBron making $39 million this year. $37 million this year. Anthony Davis, $27 million. Danny Green, $14 million, and then it drops to KCP at $8 million. Another thing that kind of hinders what the Lakers can do in terms of getting a third star is you still have that Luol Deng dead money from stretching his contract. So you've got a $5 million cap hit for basically nobody. It's just $5 million in dead money counting against your books for the next 3 seasons. So that kind of hinders you a little bit. As far as the third star, I mean, the Lakers would really have to work some magic in terms of a trade. And really, I think their focus right now simply needs to be on securing the second star. LeBron is under contract for the next 2 seasons and then has a player option for the 2021-2022 season. It's a $41 million player option. But Anthony Davis, I know I'm thrilled. I'm excited to see him in a Laker jersey and see him in action. But, there's still kind of the caveat that, hey, we could, if things derail and go off the tracks, they could only have Davis for 1 season. He does have a $28 million player option that I'm sure he's going to opt out of because he can get more money by doing that. So the Lakers their focus needs to be doing whatever the hell they need to secure Anthony Davis long term. Once they do that, then you kind of move on to the next step of the plan. I think in order to trade for a third star, you'd probably have to trade Danny Green because if you're trading for a star player, you're probably taking on a big contract. So Danny Green's $15 million would probably be in there somewhere. And then in terms of like young talent, the Lakers don't really have a ton of that left over because of the Anthony Davis trade. Kuzma's a good young piece. Maybe a team likes Alex Caruso or the rookie Taylor Horton Tucker. They're certainly tougher sells than guys like Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball. Those guys were, along with the draft picks. The Lakers are, draft pick situation's a little dry. It's not completely terrible. I think their draft pick situation gets a little over exaggerated because pick swaps are still picks that you have. And so it's just tricky because the Lakers don't have a ton of ammunition in terms of draft capital to trade. And they don't really have like expiring contracts necessarily to offer this year. So in terms of the third star, there's enough noise, I guess, around it. And there was a report right after the Bucks lost to the Raptors last year in the playoffs that if they don't get a title, Giannis is going to take a hard look elsewhere. I don't know how true the report is. I mean, it was kind of weird that it came out like maybe an hour after they were eliminated, but I don't know if the Lakers, if this is why they brought in Jason Kidd or whatever, because he has experience with Giannis Antetokounmpo, but it seems like they're trying to possibly angle themselves to have money for that season. And it'll be really tricky because, like I said, LeBron James has a $41 million player option, and Anthony Davis is going to be making, I believe, 30% of the cap by the time he signs his new deal, if he does re-sign with the Lakers, and that'll be a full max deal. So it'd be really hard to fit in another max deal without just emptying you'd have to pretty much just empty out the whole roster, and I don't even know what the numbers would look like. I don't even know if they'd still have enough to get there. But they do have, basically everybody coming off the books after next season. The 2020-2021 season is when I'm looking at their salary sheet. The only thing that it looks like they would have on the books is LeBron's player option that's $41 million. It would be Anthony Davis if he re-signs. You have Luol Deng's $5 million cap hit, and then you'd have Kyle Kuzma, and then Taylor Horton Tucker would. I think that'd be the year, since he was a second round pick, he would become a restricted free agent. So the Lakers could let him go if he doesn't really do anything, but who knows? That's a pretty small number there. So as far as the third star, I have a hard time picturing it being this season unless something just comes out of left field. So I would keep an eye on that 2021, 2022 season. Maybe LeBron opts out and he really wants to preserve his career and get a third star. Maybe he opts out and takes less money. I don't know. To me, that's probably the only way. It's the only way I can just kind of look at on the surface and see a third star coming in free agency. Trading is just going to be difficult because, like I said, the Lakers don't have like expiring contracts. They don't have a ton of young players to offer, and their draft pick situation isn't great. So, but I mean, the way the league is built, the way the Western Conference is built right now, 2 stars is enough to get out of that conference. And I mean, 2 stars is enough, I think, to beat whoever is in the East in the finals. I mean, LeBron James, even though he is getting older, he's going to be 35 in December. You still have Anthony Davis entering his prime. With LeBron James, even though he's older, is still very good. Danny Green's very good for his role, and you've got guys like JaVale McGee that are very good role players. Perhaps you get a bounce back season from an Avery Bradley, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Kyle Kuzma maybe takes that leap forward. Maybe Dwight Howard has a resurgent year. There's a lot of different things that can happen that make this team probably better than some people think. And I don't think really a third star is necessary. I think the Lakers just need to make smart moves, unless you consider like Andre Iguodala a star. That's always a possibility, especially when December 15th rolls around and the Lakers can trade some of these contracts. Maybe they make a trade with Memphis. Maybe he gets bought out. Maybe they just don't get what they want. Maybe they buy him out, let him go, and the Lakers can swoop him up. That's probably as best as it's going to get for this roster. But if they got Iguodala, it'd be a huge get. It would be a huge get. But Memphis is really holding out, trying to get another asset for him. So I wouldn't count on that really anytime soon. So as far as the third star, I wouldn't count on it. I think this is kind of the squad that we got. It's a very good squad. Hopefully Frank Vogel can maximize the talent on the roster and make the pieces really, really fit. Okay, so now to the Twitter questions that I got. This is kind of the same, similar premise, I guess. The first question was, is the roster we start the season with the same one that we end with? That's really, really tough because, I mean, even one change could be as simple as like Dwight Howard getting cut if he doesn't really, fall in line and abide by his role. And, there could be a small trade made. I'm going to say no. I think the Lakers will make a move somewhere, especially, I mean, I think a lot of times contenders at the trade deadline, if they can make even, just a move for a good role player, they'll pull the trigger on that. It's something to give them a little boost when the playoffs roll around. So I think they'll make a change somewhere along the way. They can free up that roster spot. I would still like them to take a look at a guy like Iman Shumpert. Because I think the Lakers need some help on the wing in terms of defense, and he's a guy that can shoot a little bit. So, and I mean, he would help, I think, athletically as well. I think the Lakers could use just some more athleticism on the wing, some more depth there. I think would be great. So I know they're going to hold out as long as they can for Andre Iguodala because he'd be a perfect fit for this roster and would give them a major boost. But I think the Lakers will make a change somewhere along the way, even if it's something very minor. So I don't think that the roster that they have now is going to be exactly the same when the end of the season rolls around. Next question was, when will LeBron and AD acknowledge that this is Caruso's team? I mean, it should have happened already. We all saw what Caruso did last year. And, that was the thing. Like, Bleacher Report came out with this top 50 players of all time thing today. And everybody was throwing a fit because Kobe was 14 and I think they had Steph at 10. My issue was, where the hell was Alex Caruso on that list? Like, I mean, it's just disrespectful. Like, did they not see what this guy did last year? Whatever, man. Whatever. I shouldn't acknowledge it. I shouldn't acknowledge it because they just want they left Caruso off the list because they just want my reaction. Well, guess what, Bleacher Report, you got it. A little upset. I'm a little upset, but it's okay. Okay, next question. Which role player do you think will have the biggest impact? And he said, my pick is Jared Dudley. I have gone back and forth on this one. I could definitely see Jared Dudley just because, I mean, we saw kind of what he was able to do with the Nets last year in the playoffs. I mean, he made big plays. He, made timely plays. He's got veteran leadership, excellent veteran leadership, and just the perfect guy you want in your locker room. So I think kind of, the on-court stuff, his counting stats, during the regular season don't look great. But I think he makes timely plays. He makes smart plays. He adds to your basketball IQ overall as a team. I think that's very, very important. But I just think some of the intangible stuff, the stuff that he brings off the court as well, his leadership, his communication, how vocal he is, how smart he is. That stuff's so valuable. It's so valuable, and you need a guy like that in your locker room. So I would say probably Jared Dudley. I also keep coming back to Avery Bradley. I really do. I just have I don't know. It's probably a blind gut feeling. And I guess if you consider Danny Green a role player, I guess I probably don't. I would consider him probably more than just a role player on this team. But if you consider Danny Green a role player, he would be my choice. But I keep coming back to Avery Bradley. I just think with the injuries he's had the past couple of years, it's really kind of hindered what he's been able to do. And I'm kind of buying in a little bit to him coming into camp in great shape. I know it's kind of silly to fall for those because just about every guy says that they are in tip-top shape coming into training camp. But for Bradley to lose the weight that he has and to be fully healthy, he's just really battled a lot of injuries the last couple of years. And, he's still not to that age where you would think he's declining. Like, the decline in his game doesn't really make sense, to me at least, because he's not quite that old. He's, let's see, what is he? He's only 28 years old. He'll be 29 in November, but I don't know. I just think he's going to be, I think he's going to be an important piece. And I am buying into to the idea that he's going to have a bounce back year. But I like a lot of the Lakers role players. I really do. I think Bradley could have a bounce back year. KCP hopefully can just channel the good KCP. And sometimes he's very good. When he's knocking down threes, he's making smart decisions. He's playing a hard defense. But there are times where the decision making is very poor. The shooting goes, and it's just kind of a train wreck. But JaVale McGee, I think, could be excellent in his role. Dwight Howard, I think, has potential to be really good in his role. Alex Caruso, I think, is still better than people give him credit for. And it's probably because of the way he looks. and it sucks, because I think he's actually a legitimate, solid NBA player. And I'm actually excited for him to get more opportunities this year under Frank Vogel, who I think is an upgrade from Luke Walton. So I think that's another big deal for this team. But yeah, I mean, you could go down the list. I think the Lakers have a lot of role players. Even a guy like Quinn Cook, I think, can come in, and if he's presented with open 3-point opportunities, can be, provide a spark. So there's a lot of candidates there. I'll go with Dudley because of the stuff that he brings on and off the court. And again, I'm excluding Danny Green because to me, on this team especially, he's more than just a role player. Okay, we got 2 more questions to get to. Does Dwight make it to the playoffs? So this kind of goes back to the is the roster the same at the end of the season as it is right now? I've been more optimistic about Dwight than I think most people are. So does Dwight make it to the playoffs? I'm going to say yes. It might be wildly wrong. I don't know. But just to me, like, I think Dwight and his camp, his agent, and everybody, I think they have to understand that this is it, man. Like, if you screw up this opportunity, you've been on, I don't know, a handful of teams in as many years. Like, it doesn't matter how great you used to be. If your attitude sucks, you're a problem in the locker room. And, I mean, we've seen it with, I mean, it's probably a terrible comparison, and I'm not comparing their current abilities, but you see it with Antonio Brown in the NFL. The guy is 1 year, I mean, less than a year removed from being arguably the best wide receiver in football, and he's not even on a roster. Like, he couldn't even stick with the New England Patriots. Coming off a game where he caught a touchdown and had a pretty solid performance. So I mean, at a certain point, your off court stuff, your immaturity, that'll outweigh any talent or impact that you can bring on the court. And with Dwight, he's not that great center that he used to be. He's still a quality player in my mind, but he's got to bring it mentally. He's got to bring it on and off the court. He's got to show that he's grown up, and he's got to show he's taking this seriously and that he wants to win. And I think he's going to do that. I don't know. Maybe it's blind faith, but I don't know. I have a gut feeling that I think he's going to do that because I think he understands that this is his last shot, and if he doesn't take it seriously, who knows? He might be getting the Carmelo treatment, and he might be searching for a team and no teams want him, and he might have to go play in another league. I don't know. But I feel like he understands the situation and understands that this is it, man. Like, you got to prove yourself, because if you don't do it now, you might not get another chance. So, all right, last question. Kyle Kuzma, the Lakers announced today I'm recording this, that he is out indefinitely with a stress reaction in his foot, which was related to the injury that he suffered with Team USA. And the Lakers also announced that he will have an MRI once they return from China. They'll be playing to have some preseason action over in China, which is very alarming to me, because you would think if he's close to returning that they would get the MRI now and figure out the extent of the injury. But the fact that they're going to wait for the MRI makes me kind of feel like he could be out a while. And that's concerning because, I mean, they've already lost DeMarcus Cousins, replaced him with Dwight Howard, so they might be okay there. But Kuzma's a huge piece of this team, and the question basically was, how does this impact the Lakers? And I think it impacts them pretty greatly, because I envision Kuzma being part of that closing lineup, with the Lakers basically playing that three spot in close games. I've said this a number of times. My closing lineup would be Caruso, Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Those would be my 5. And Kuzma brings a different dynamic in terms of his scoring that a lot of guys on this roster can't bring. And if he's able to knock down threes, he's a huge X factor for this team. And I think his positional versatility offensively, I mean, we've seen it plenty of times. I mean, he kind of can play the 3 and the 4. To me, he's more of a 3 now. For some reason, I think he defends better on the perimeter than he does in the post, like down low in the paint area. It still needs work in general on that end of the floor. But I think Kuzma has the potential to make a pretty significant leap defensively. I don't think he'll ever be like an elite defensive player or anything like that. But I think he could be adequate on that end, which would be a huge step forward. And if the three ball comes back around like it did his rookie season, that's also a huge development. It allows the Lakers to do a lot of different things. So yeah, I think this is a big loss, and hopefully he's not out too long. Hopefully he is ready to go by the time the regular season rolls around. We have no idea. Indefinitely could mean 2 weeks. It could mean 2 months. Nobody really knows. So I'm hoping he's not out for a long time, because I think that is a pretty big loss, because he brings a skill set to the table that a lot of different guys on the roster don't bring. So yeah, get healthy soon, Kyle Kuzma. This team definitely needs you. And yeah, hopefully, man, I don't know what we have to do to keep this team healthy just once. Ever since that 2012, 2013 disaster of a season, where it seemed like there was always one major guy hurt, right? One guy would get hurt, he'd come back, and another guy would get hurt. And you just repeat the cycle over and over until the nail in the coffin that was Kobe's injury at the end of that season. Ever since then, man, it's been every year, just the injuries just pile up. And the Lakers have a new training staff this year. So I was hoping, that would be enough to really kind of see a spike in injury prevention. We're going to see how well they are in injury recovery, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It reminds me, I can't remember if it's Major League One. I think it's Major League One. I can't remember if it's the first or second one. But for those of you who've seen that movie, I think it's Pedro Serrano wants to sacrifice a live chicken in that movie before their big game. And it's like, what do we have to sacrifice to lift this injury curse off this team? Because I am sick and tired of this team getting hurt. I can live with the results no matter what they are this year, as long as the team stays healthy. The team stays healthy and they get put out in the first round. Oh, well, I mean, it would suck, but I can live with that. I am tired of seeing the Lakers not be able to hit their ceiling because they just can't stay healthy. They can't keep their full roster on the floor. So that's all I ask. Please, Lakers, get and stay healthy. And man, we got to figure out what we got to do to get rid of this injury curse, because it's driving me crazy. All right, well, that is going to do it for this time. I appreciate those of you that sent in the questions. Again, if you want to send in those questions, leave them in a YouTube comment. You can tweet them at me, at Gary Kester, or at Lakers Outsiders. Best way is probably in a YouTube comment, because I check those frequently to make sure we're getting those the YouTube interactions. And make sure you like this video, subscribe to UCast Studios on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. Same thing with Lakers Outsiders. You can find all of the content up on LakersOutsiders.com. Follow us on social media. And the next week's episode, we'll be talking about some actual Lakers basketball. We'll be talking about some things we hear about practice, what players are saying, stuff like that. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait. This has been such a long off season, and it's finally coming to an end, and we can finally get this season going. I just pray that we get this team healthy, we stay healthy, and we can see what they can do. That's all I ask. I don't ask much, basketball gods, but that's all I ask. Just injuries suck. Don't put injuries on anybody, but if you're going to do it, leave the Lakers alone. We've dealt with enough injuries the last 5 or 6 years. Okay? Oh, all right. I'm taking off. Again, I appreciate you guys sending me questions. I appreciate you guys listening. And until next time, this is Gary Kester with the Lakers Outsiders, signing off.